So, everybody online, welcome to Kalliomäki Podcast Global. Here, right at the cloudy Jyväsjärvi, we are at the Lutakko studio. And we have today a guest who is a leadership consultant, a creator of descriptive communication and communications specialist. He has recently written a book called Reaching Escape Velocity. And one of his favorite questions is, what do you want? If you've listened to any podcast he's been a guest on, you've probably encountered this seemingly simple question, which is actually really complex when you get to it. Do we really know what we want, or can we articulate what we want? His company is called Articula with the Q. You can go to artiqula.com if you want to become a customer of his, and his offering includes descriptive communication sessions 1-on-1 for leaders, honest leadership workshop, help me help you team building, and strategic re-engagement program. I want to talk about engagement today with you. So welcome to the show, Joppe. It's great to meet you live. We had a discussion online. But great to meet you right now, live here in Jyväskylä.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So just a heads up for the audience. You can ask any questions to Joppe, and I have a direct link to our moderator team here, so I'll get it to my cell phone, and we don't have a script here. We can just talk about what you want to hear about. But to start things off, let's look at Jones's threats report. And this is going to be an interesting and relevant topic about people in workplaces and about sense of community. So, Jones, go ahead.
If you want to know how ordinary Finnish people think, feel, and behave in 2025, Threads is the social media platform to find out. I'm Jones Häkkinen, and this is my Threads report. For this podcast, Tuomo and I wanted to find out what ordinary Finnish people think about the sense of meaning and community in their work. So I got on Threads and I asked the Finnish people, in your work life, do you have a sense of belonging and a community? Or do you just go to work, do your job, and go home? Now, over 560 people voted, so this clearly is a subject that resonates with people. 55% answered that they did feel a sense of community, while 45% answered that they were just working here. The comment section also reflected the split, and interestingly, many people answered that they had actually experienced both of these options in their work life. So based on this poll, Finnish people do feel a sense of community and meaning in their work life if the leadership of the company creates a culture that empowers and facilitates it. But this, of course, is just the humble analysis of the Threads report. I'm very interested to hear what you guys think about the subject matter.
I just work here. Are you a part of community in your work life, or do you just work here? We asked this on Threads, and 55% of people told us they are part of a community. But 45% of people told us they just work here. This was asked by Jones Häkkinen on the Threads report, and actually we got 561 votes in Finland. What do you think, Joppe, about this poll result? Does this surprise you, or what do you think?
I think it's first very interesting that you said 506, right?
Yes.
So to me, that means that it's very important to people. It's something on their mind. And I feel that personally that community and purpose go hand in hand. And I think a lot of people are looking for community, also looking for purpose. I'm not surprised. I think that for a lot of people, work is work because work has to be work. In the sense that if they have leaders that for whatever reasons are not taking care of their employees, well, then work is just work. And then on the other hand, there's also, for instance, I've worked in the startup world, and there are a lot of companies that are like, oh, we're like a family. But saying you're a family is not the same as being a family, right? Or then, for instance, I remember that there were a lot of corporations that wanted to be like startups. So they thought, what if we mimic this family atmosphere? But none of these things are tricks. If you want to start a community, I think it starts with real care. And that comes from empathy and from emotional intelligence. And how many leaders actually have that? That's a question.
And how many leaders actually have the resources from their leaders to do that, or are
Yes,
they
definitely.
just employees actually? But what you touched there is that actually companies need to do things in their own way. We can't just take, okay, I want to be like Tesla or
Yes.
Uber or
Yes.
or some small startup. You should actually know the people and know how these people work and what they actually want.
Yeah.
And that takes time. That's the hard part.
You see a lot, like, have a company that has been growing, and let's say there are 100 people, and then they go, hey, we should have like a mission or values. And then they come together, management comes together and decides by committee what their values are. That sounds like complete nonsense to me. How can you make up your values? And then you have to all of a sudden top down push these values to the people that are working for you, that have been used to doing things in a certain way. It sounds very strange to me, right? One thing I loved about when I was working in the startup world is that a lot of startups, not all of them, but a lot of them start with a product or a service that brings something good to the world. And there you have your values. And then that also attracts the right people, hopefully. And there's so many benefits to it because if you do it well, if you have the right values and you have the right product and you're trying to make the world a better place in your own unique way, then you also don't have to do as much as much recruitment, for instance. So there's all these benefits, but I'm afraid that too many experts like me not me personally, but like me, have told people how to create community, how to be that family as a company. But I'm afraid they're lying. They're lying because they're trying to sell you something that, as you say, is really complicated to do. I feel like if you want to understand how this works, you have to have some kind of intuitive feeling or understanding of psychology. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, psychology or organizational psychology has really become an attractive topic. We now have people like Simon Sinek and maybe Rutger Bregman on a national or global scale,
right.
who bring these human visions maybe to this old principal agent sort of theory or setup that still is there actually.
Yeah.
It's still a mix. But we are starting to notice the importance of understanding people individually and in organizations where it's much more complex still.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about leaders and communicating, because this is your bread and butter. This is what you do. So what are the actual pain points, let's say, of leaders and employees in terms of communication?
You actually said it already earlier. You spoke about, does management give the leaders opportunity to be leaders? And one of the biggest, most simple issues I see is that leaders don't have time. They're busy working. Why are they working? Especially if they're managers, right? Management of some sorts. What are they supposed to do? Well, they're supposed to manage. It's in the job title. Manage people. But too often they're doing the work of 2 or 3 other people already. So even if they would want to take time for their team or take time for the department, where are they supposed to get it from? And then there's a lot of pressure, of course, from the C-suite people, because they're being pressured by the stakeholders. So it kind of becomes a problem, like where do you make the change and where do you start? What I wish that companies, C-suite and management would understand is that the investment will eventually lead to more time, and time is money. But it will actually also lead to more profit. If you look at the research, the proof is there. The proof is there. And some companies have understood this. And they're applying these things. So one of my favorite things is this. If your leader, you have a team manager, they can delegate everything. If they're doing the work of one of the team members, it's off. We could agree on that? Makes sense, right? Okay. But how do they do this? So let's say you're in a meeting And this is really simple, but I notice time and time again when I work with companies that people don't do it, right? So let's say that I have 5 people. There's a project that needs to happen. There's an accountant, there's a programmer, there's a HR person, whatever is necessary. I am not the accountant, so I cannot tell the accountant how long time it's going to take to do it. They have to tell me, correct? They are the expert. So I have to ask this accountant, okay, for this project, how long are you going to need? But most of the time nowadays, with the way that the cultures have been, is that people don't want to answer that question because they think that I have an answer in my mind as a manager, right? You have to do what I want. So they might say, 2 weeks, even though they know it's going to take 3 weeks because it's fear-based. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah? Okay. So if you want to work with a team, you have to explain to this accountant, if I ask you this question, you have the opportunity to answer. But there it already starts. Am I asking a question or is it actually demand, right? You see this a lot where people say, here's a question, but they're actually telling you what to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Culture, right? Okay. So for this, there's actually a really simple concept. And that issue, actually I have let me see where it is. It's this one. So you can try this with your team. You start a meeting. You discuss what you're going to discuss, and you turn to the person that needs something delegated to, and you say, okay, in order to do the thing that you need to do you need any information? Do you need any resources? Do you need any support, schedule, budget, time, motivation, infrastructure, authority, deadlines, education, skills? In the beginning, people find this very childish, especially the people in the team, but if I can create a culture where you can honestly answer these questions, then I know as a manager know that I don't have to do it for you, but I know what I have to provide you with, correct? And if we don't have it, then I look for an alternative. That's my job. But the benefit is if I do this correctly over and over and over again, eventually the team will start telling me before I ask. Simple, right? In the best case scenario, I do this and then I can lean back in my chair, right? So, but there's so much more to it because also I'm giving autonomy and agency to the people around me to do things their way. They know they are supported because it's my job to provide these things that I just said, right? That's my job. And also they all know from each other what it is that they're doing and what they need from each other. So there's also team building or maybe even cross-pollination amongst departments. This is so simple, but almost nobody ever does it.
I actually read a couple books by Joppe Quaedvlieg, who is Navy SEAL and big guru on the leadership on the Navy side. So what he told on his books and on his podcasts is that he managed to build this trust with his team, that when his team comes to him and says, we need this gadget or this much ammo, he could immediately
there you go.
say,
Yeah.
Okay, I 100% trust that's what you need. I will get it to you. But there must have been a lot of work before that to achieve this.
And do you as a team and as a manager want to take that time? This is not a matter of a 2-hour workshop. I can show you this, I can do a presentation on it, but you would have to practice this over and over again. And as I said, in the beginning, you will see that people will be reluctant. They might not trust it, or maybe you're asking the wrong questions. Because managers will often ask, does everybody have everything they need? But that's already like, what? What does that mean even? I don't have time to think. But if I actually go step by step through information, resources, because I'm also helping you to think about, hey, what didn't I think about? What am I missing here? Right? And that comes from something that if you're an expert and you're really good at what you do, you probably forget how you do what you do.
That's true.
Right? Simple, right? So I can help to remind you. And also this helps to show the differences between people. If there's an extrovert and an introvert, they need probably different support. It's not, it's not one size fits all. And that's also where a sense of community comes from. If we try and make everything homogeneous, there's no community. We're robots, right? If the thing we do over and over again is the same thing, we're robots. This shows you're a different human being. You need a different kind of support. And then people feel cared for. And I think it's the care that makes people stay. It's the care that makes people understand why they do what they do and have a sense of community.
Exactly. I'll take a look at if we have any audience questions at this point. By the way, we have people from Espoo, Helsinki, and Fuengirola in the audience. So just a little heads up to us. Let's talk a little bit about the dark side now. So let's talk about employee engagement, or actually disengagement. So this is vastly more usual, more normal, should I say, though it shouldn't be, than I previously thought. So most people actually have some sort of disengagement in their work, and only a small minority are actually completely engaged. And then there is a small minority who are like actively actually sabotaging the community somehow. What's going on? What's
it's actually really interesting. I didn't know this until I started doing research on it myself, and I was pretty blown away. So the reason why I started to do the research is because I intuitively felt, and I've also had my own experience of like, why am I at this company, but I'm not doing really enough? Why are people not working together as much? Why is the, what do you call it again if the company has like a research on the culture? What's the name? Like a, can't remember the name. Well, let's say that then. Why is it that the company does research on the company culture, and out of it comes that they have a great culture, but then when you walk around in the halls and you talk to one-on-one, people go like, maybe not that great. This doesn't make sense to me, right? So I just start Googling it. And very quickly, I came across research done by Gallup. Gallup? Did I say it correctly? Yeah. And I have some numbers for you, just to help it around. So 87% of the employees are in some way or form disengaged. This cost the world $8.6 trillion. $8.6 trillion. That's 9% of its GDP of the world. This study was done with 142 countries. So the amount of people that are engaged, fully 13%. Not engaged, means not that much engaged, 63%. And that means that there is some way or form unhappy and they're not producing. Maybe they're alone on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And then actively disengaged is 24%. Now think about it, 24% of people that are maybe even sabotaging the work that you're doing, right? Disengaged employees cost a company about 34% of an annual salary. That's a lot of money, right? Disengaged employees have 37% higher absenteeism, 18% lower productivity, and 50% lower profitability. You can look up the research itself. It's really, really interesting. So what I find so interesting in it is that if you take a company, especially when you're small still, and you're building your culture, you can already create a strategy against this. And the good thing is that it's not a matter of spending money on solving something, it's spending money on creating a better culture from the start. And the benefits that come from that are huge. People will stay longer, so there's less turnover. There's higher profitability, higher productivity. But what you see a lot is that you have to let go a little bit of the old school way of working. Because no longer is it about hours of working. We're not machines, right? Hopefully. So for just an example, I do my best work when I'm thinking. So I might walk around for 3 hours not doing anything, but at the same time, I'm coming up with a plan for a workshop. I'm putting these ideas in my head, but it looks to other people like I'm just having lunch, right? Just as an example, right? And then we're definitely not speaking enough about the happiness of the people at work. Purpose. Because if I'm happy, I'm less sick. If I'm happy, I'm more likely to produce. But I would even say this, and I find this really funny. If you have a company, why are you even thinking about the money? What about decency? that you want your people to be happy, right? Eventually, AI and robots will take over almost any job anyway. So let's at least make sure that we treat people with respect, right? And the benefit is that if I treat my employees with respect, you will get it back. They will care for you too. I care for you as a manager. You care for me. That's really how it works. So
yeah. One thing that opened my eyes really for this, maybe this was by Simon Sinek or Joppe Quaedvlieg at a certain podcast or lecture, but actually the most leader person is the one who sacrifices most for the team, and people will sort of throw this leadership on the shoulders of that person.
Yeah.
So it's an actually front-loaded thing. You need to do something first, then you actually become the leader.
I mean, think about we've all have had managers or leaders who are like, how did this person become a leader? This doesn't make any sense. And often can be a matter of time. They've been somewhere really long, so they were just promoted because you can't not promote them. Or they're an expert, but experts can make terrible leaders. Sometimes not, sometimes great. But experts, the fact that you're really good at doing the thing doesn't mean you're good with people, right? And I feel like these are very obvious things that are very often overlooked.
Let's take a practical example, and maybe we can role play here, or maybe you can tell some examples. But this question, what do you want? Because our audience may be thinking, I'll just start to communicate like a great communicator. But if I really want to answer the question, what do I want? It becomes complex suddenly. You've done this many times with your clients. How does it go? How do these conversations go?
Would you like to try it with me?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. So first I have to set some rules. Let's call them guidelines. So I will ask the question, what do you want? In many different ways. All I need you to do is answer. All I need you to do is answer. Do not answer, right? You'll see that this is probably more difficult or challenging than you might at first think. And I might even pull at your words. I might say, come on, there's something there. However, if there's something you really don't want to say, of course you don't have to, right? Very important. But the main thing is that you try. If you go off on a tangent, I might cut you off and bring you back to the question, what do you want? Understood?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, and maybe for the audience, what's interesting to see is that if you're looking at the video, take a look at our body language. See how that informs you what is actually happening, because I think that's where it shows the best. So, what do you want?
I want physical safety. I want a really good gut feeling that I'm physically safe and I have enough distance to anything that may disturb my peace. Maybe I want peace of mind, but I'm going to be a little more detailed and just bring it to this physical peace.
Okay, thank you. How does that look like?
That looks like me having a really tight-knit team who actually help me communicate with other
Thank you so much.
stakeholders and people.
Thank you so much. This is really important to me because when I first asked you, what do you want? And you said physical safety, I started imagining kind of like a harness or a weapon. So I didn't know this. This is already amazing, right? Just because I showed interest. Okay, can you say it again about the team thing?
Yeah, I want a really tight-knit team, maybe 1 to 4 very trusted people with whom I can be in contact with the outside world, with other people and allies. But these people will sort of be like my messengers and trusted people.
And this tight-knit group, how does that practically translate? What does that mean in a daily life?
A practical example could be that I can, as easily as making a Facebook message or a WhatsApp message to a friend, as easily I can make a business-related WhatsApp message to a friend who will then take care of something.
Okay. Is it fair to say, in this case, just as one example, it's about putting out a request to the team?
Yeah.
Correct? Okay, very
Exactly.
good. By the way, if this is too personal, let me know. I don't mean to pry, but do you have, what could be such a message, such a request?
This could be, for example, trying any new opportunity that I have in mind. Maybe I have come up with a vision. Hey, let's try to do a product like this. Are you up for it? Can you try this with me?
Okay, good. And what is the reaction from them that you're looking for?
What I'm looking for is that they will see this as a safe way to try something new that will bring prosperity to both of us. And it will be fun.
Okay. Do you have something in mind that you would want to actually try with the team?
Yeah, definitely.
Would you be open of sharing that?
Sure. This could be like sales, for example, in LinkedIn with DMs and trying to book commercial podcasts and.
Okay, wait, stop.
This kind of
now we're
stuff.
getting somewhere. So sales is whatever, right? You said commercial podcasts. That's specific, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you even happen to know a podcast?
Come again, please.
Would you even happen to know a podcast? A commercial podcast?
Yeah, do I know an example? Yeah, I know two examples, for example.
Okay, really good. Okay. Could you tell me the exact message that you would want to say in that WhatsApp message?
For my team.
For your team, yes.
Hey, should we try this new idea? You could do sales with
I'm going to cut you off for a second.
Yeah.
Why?
To reach.
Say, I want to reach.
I want to reach
Yes.
new income for our podcast. Would you be interested in doing sales on LinkedIn via DMs to potential customers?
Very good. By the way, I'm going to ask you to repeat yourself a couple of times. Try and hold this in your head a little bit. Why, if you take one team member, why them?
Because I believe you have
There you go.
the potential for this new thing.
Okay, now the whole thing. Why? Why them? And the request.
I believe you would have potential for this new idea I have, which would bring income for our team, both you and me. It would be doing sales on LinkedIn via DMs.
Exactly. And you need from them what?
I need to know if you would be interested in doing this.
Interested.
And
what's a way to? I'm thinking, what could be even more clear?
Yeah.
Do you want to do this with me? Something like that?
Would you be open to try this?
Very good, very good. Okay. By the way, I got goosebumps. I'm just saying, really,
I'm
really, right?
right?
Did you see what happened with your body?
I didn't have.
You got excited. Your eyes lit up. You start to move.
That's true.
Can you promise me something? You don't have to, but can you, after we have done this, can you send that message?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, how was this?
This was actually really, maybe the word is invigorating. It's like making me lively and bringing a lot of energy. It actually feels like a spell.
There you go. Yes, yes. So, why I find this so interesting is that I just asked, what do you want?
Yeah.
But it could be anything, right? You could have said, I want to spend more time with my kids. It became what it is. And it's very important. I have no preconceived notion of what it is. I have no need to feed you what it is that you want to do. You're telling me. And we got to a really beautiful answer, very practical. And what I find so interesting is that the first answer was, I would like to have physical safety.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? This completely transformed into something really practical.
That's true.
This is it. If we take our goals, our dreams, our wishes, and we formulate them in such a way, we describe them, hence the word descriptive communication, we describe them in such a way that you understand, hey, what is that I'm doing? With who am I doing this? Why? And what do I need from them? Why them? And it's really respectful towards your team members, right? I'm asking you this because I think you're the best person for this, and because I've worked with you before, and I think you can help me. So there's also a lot of humbleness in that, correct?
Yeah.
It's nice, right?
It's true.
And it's simple.
Yeah. So just to drive the point into to our audience, if a leader would become an expert on descriptive communication, that would be like a superpower for any leader.
Because I want people to understand that as long as I'm describing myself, why I do what I do, how I do it, and why with you, it builds immediate trust. And you cannot really fake this. Because if you start to fake it, you would not have had the same enthusiasm, right? Your eyes wouldn't light up. You got excited. I got excited. I got actual goosebumps, right? So what's also interesting is that I don't even know your team, but I want to help. It's like it riles up in a positive way. That's community right there. Now imagine that not only you do it, but your team members do that also.
Yeah.
So for instance, and I've thought about this so much, how many people in their position, you can be an employee, you can be a leader, you can be C-suite, you can be an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. How often do we ask ourselves the question, why did I begin this?
Yeah.
Why do I care? Because we might feel that we don't care, we might be disengaged, but it doesn't mean there's no way back to it, right? And of course, if let's say you started a startup and you started out with passion and values, and now you have 500 people, and you're like, I'm just doing sales all the time, I'm going nuts. To understand again, why did I start this? It shows you the fun parts of the projects. It also makes you focus again on what you want to do, not anybody else. So it's very respectful. It creates authenticity. What do I want? Why did I start this?
I'm just thinking about what we want, really. I'm thinking about LinkedIn now, for example, because what if what we want, at least on the surface, is something like really vain or just some, I want popularity on LinkedIn, or I want to feel better than that guy there or that girl there, and I'm comparing these stats. What do you think about the wants of people in general? Can they be good or bad wants?
Okay. I might be wrong, but in my experience, all our wants are actually very humble. But that doesn't mean that nobody ever says, I want fame, I want money. But here's the thing. Let's say I have to make up an example, right? Let's say somebody says, I want money. Well, then I ask, money for what? And there has to be a thing. So somebody says, well, then I can buy an expensive car. And I know this is boring, but I'll go, why? Well, maybe I can impress a lady. Okay. Why? Because I don't have a partner. Okay. What do you want from a partner? You see where this is going?
Yeah.
So people start thinking about success in a certain way, but our wants are very humble. They're very authentic. It's always about, it's about love. It's about care. It's about community. It's about creating a better world.
That's actually true. So we, for example, let's say you're a leader in a technology company, and you have maybe 10 or 15 employees. So taking this idea further, we could say that each one of them is motivated, maybe roughly 1, 2, or 3 of these, like really, really universal human wants and needs. Maybe somebody wants to be inspired. Maybe somebody feels safe around you as a leader.
Yeah.
Or maybe somebody wants to impress that partner and get that family. This is a really sobering way of thinking, because maybe sometimes I personally think really complex people's wants and needs. I think about, I don't know what he wants. I don't know what that guy wants.
Well, we don't ask.
Yeah.
Right? We don't. And also, by the way, and even if people ask, often we don't really listen.
That's true.
Right? I mean, what I like about the question, I mean, obviously I don't only ask, what do you want? I keep asking, right? Tell me more. Tell me a bit more. It's very similar to the book of Simon Sinek, what's it called again?
Yeah, starting with
Start
why.
with why, right? Because it's just why kind of.
Exactly.
I also want people to understand that, wait, what did I have in my head? I have a good example. I was giving a workshop the other day, and there was a lady who works for a company. She loves working there. And I asked her, what do you want? Listen to this. I asked her, what do you want for the company? And then she said, I want other people to start working here because there's so much freedom. Then I thought, interesting. That's not per se for the company. That's for the people around her, correct? That's what she said. But she promotes this company for free to anybody who wants to listen. So it is for the company.
Yeah, that's true.
But I can imagine that maybe a C-suite person might be like, oh, this person is not thinking about the company, but they are. It's just different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So often our wants are very beneficial for ourselves and our environment, but we have to be willing to see it.
That's actually true. And what I'm thinking about right now is LinkedIn and these sort of employee ambassadors. What kind of potential do we have there if we can get these people who want to give the good that the company has to other people? Everybody benefits, and these people get the free speech platform on LinkedIn as ambassadors for the company. That would be awesome.
Well, I mean, so I have a mantra that I give myself that's, I think, related to this. I'll see if I can give it a shot. So if I only do things because I want something, then everything becomes a sale, correct? Okay. But everything changes if I do this. I am mature enough to understand that it is about me and you, me and you. I'm important. I have my rights, I have my dreams, I have my wishes, I have my need to vent, I have my need for love. But you're also important. And then we are important, the us, because we matter, because we have to collaborate. The world only becomes a better place if we do it. And that means also that our environment is important. So I'm important, you're important, we are important, and our environment is important. If I start thinking like that, then everything is there to help the next thing, including yourself. So I spent a lot of time helping people because I think they deserve it. I do this in my own free time. I do this, for instance, I met a person in a bar the other day. They had trouble networking, and I couldn't help myself. I gave them a little personal workshop for an hour. I was scribbling on napkins, telling her how to do it. Because I want the other to be happy, right? Okay. I feel like companies who would understand this would do better, because it ultimately leads to collaboration. So instead of you're my competition, you're not my competition. There's a whole market. What if we work together? What do you have that I don't have? Maybe you have tools that I don't have. Maybe I have experts that I don't have. But if I think it's only about me, then we're competition. However, if I would think it's only about you, I'm probably not going to have a good time either, right? If we don't understand that it's also about our environment, we will literally kill the environment, correct? So it's not that difficult to understand, but are people willing to do this? Because at first you have to compromise and give your time and give your tools and give your referrals and do it. Why not? And I really believe this, together we are stronger. And if one of us wins, we all win. If I really live that, then I'm super trustworthy and you can rely on me, correct?
Exactly.
Right?
But it's it's easy to say this in this situation. We are now being very creative and we are not in a sort of pressure situation. But if we go to try to apply to a company and we sit down on the chair and we look at the CEO in the eyes, immediately my heart goes to, I need this job. And it's so human. But actually in that situation especially, we should think about you, me.
Yes.
I'm here to offer this company. I can help this company with this. I can help you with my humor, and this is what we should think about.
And then a company should be open to that.
Exactly.
Because I think that too many companies do see people, unfortunately, as numbers or machines. But what you just described is a person with very specific skills, right?
Exactly.
Let people do things. Let them try.
Exactly.
And by the way, it doesn't work to go to the work on Monday and announce, okay, guys, you can do the things you feel like doing. People will just freeze. Same thing, it doesn't work with small kids. Understand, right?
Yeah.
So you have to create a safe environment. There's actually research on this. They took a mother and a child in a room, and they wanted to see how much does the child explore the room. How much is the child autonomous? How much agency do they have? They did it in such a way that the mother was in the room, and the child would then move a bit, look back, see if mother is looking. If so, would continue, would explore, right? Sounds like a healthy human being, correct?
Exactly.
Now they did the same thing, but the mother wasn't paying attention. Crossed arms, looking around, and the child would crawl a bit, look back. Mother isn't looking. Would freeze. Freeze. Doesn't sound healthy, right?
Yeah.
And the third one was the mother would leave the room. This child would eventually start exploring, but get really anxious. So I see this same thing with leadership and employees. Now, I don't mean to say that employees are children. That's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is that as leadership, creating a safe environment means that people flourish and can grow into their potential. But for that, you need mentoring. For that, you need to provide them with the right tools and the right education. But how many companies really set out a strategy for that? Not enough.
That's not what's generally discussed in the boardrooms,
Yeah.
but it should be.
I think so, at least.
Word to our technician, could you put the air conditioning to setting number 4 if it's not? And we have a audience question from Lassi Kervinen. Based on science, it seems that financial targets and targets related to well-being at work should be treated with equal respect. If a company wants to build long-lasting growth, but why aren't most of the companies doing this?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it yourself also. It's like when money comes into play, everybody loses their mind. And I've been there myself, right? I remember being unemployed, not enough income, and I stopped thinking. It's a big fear. And there's actually science behind that, that if we get fearful, we start to think with the front of our brain, not the back. And we're not very smart in the front. And we start to, we're, kind of adrenaline fueled, and we start to think about survival. And I think that's what you see happen a lot. I was working at a company, and they had a program for people to train themselves. Like they could book courses and whatnot. And they also had a mentoring program. But what's interesting is that nobody got any trainings because they didn't have time. That's weird, right? Or they didn't feel safe and comfortable to take the time at work to then do the trainings. And the mentoring, there was no mentoring. People got assigned a mentor, but it was nothing. Mentoring means that you take somebody along with you and show them the ropes, correct? So even though these things were in place, it still didn't work. What you clearly could see happen was that there wasn't enough income coming into the company, right? So money. And then the solution was everybody should work more and harder. More and harder. Well, okay, if that hasn't worked in a year, maybe try something else, right? Or how do they say it? What's the definition of insanity, trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? But it's human psychology, so we have to deal with this. What I wonder a lot is that specifically now with AI coming and also very soon better robots, eventually what we will have left is our humanity. So we better get good at understanding how people work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just, my mind is going back to these huge numbers about engagement and just to add to that, the separate topic of sick leaves and how much people stay away from work, can't work because they have to take these sick leaves. And you can actually calculate even the cost of noise. This is a separate topic, but that those cars there,
yes.
you can calculate how much that costs to the economy. So maybe it's time companies would...
It doesn't even make sense, right? I mean, nowadays, when it comes to burnouts, people have multiple. You remember 10, 20 years ago, people had one burnout. Now it's like, oh, this is my third burnout. And what I find strange is that one time I was close to a burnout myself, and I called the, what's it called? The professional healthcare provider. And I said, hey, I think I'm getting closer. What can you help me with? You know what their answer was?
Go all the way.
They said, we cannot help you. Which I thought, but wait a minute. If we prevent this, I will cost less money to everyone. Right?
Yeah.
But it's not available.
This is why when I was a leader, I always thought it's good to not watch so closely when people take the sick leave. Because maybe they prevented something. Maybe they weren't actually sick, but they would become sick. Or maybe they had some personal issues, family issues. Well, they don't need to tell me. They can just...
Right. Well, I do wonder how many people would benefit from getting help with the question, what do you want? Because maybe you're at a company where you're not supposed to be. Now, by the way, I'm not talking about that it's simple to find other work. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But are you in a function that you're happy with? Are you using the tools that you want to be using? Are you in the department where you want to be? So, for instance, I remember I had a person and they really wanted to work together with another department on a project. But management just kept saying, no, you cannot do this. And then they said, well, if you really want to do it, you have to do it in your own time. So this person wants to innovate something, try something new. All they need is time. That's what they're asking for. You're telling them no. I don't understand. And of course, the logic was this is going to cost so much money. It's always money, right? But as long as that's the case, well, then nothing changes. Well, and if nothing changes, then there's the same amount of burnout. I mean, think about the turnover companies have. It is nuts. It is absolute madness. Yeah. It's crazy.
Okay, I think our technician is going to a long discussion on the chat. But shout out to the chat. Keep it going. Let's say some other questions. Yeah. So if you have questions, technician and moderators can just put them in simple format there to my chat, and I will read them out loud. So let's talk a little bit about your volunteering. So the concept is help me help you.
Yes.
So you mentioned on another podcast that you did this for even a couple of years as a fully volunteer work, and actually that helped you start the company. Am I correct?
Yes. Well, so what happened was this: I realized I have a mission, and the mission is to create a better world through improved communication. Because I see that as long as we cannot answer what we want, then we cannot ask for it. As long as we cannot answer what we want, I cannot articulate it and make it happen. It's simple, right? So this is why I came up with 3 tools for myself. One is Articula, where I have the workshops and I train people and I use descriptive communication. The other one is the book, indeed, which shows, we can talk more about it later, which is kind of the poetic/esoteric way of doing it. And then I also wanted a way to help people that are not, that don't have a company, because I think everybody deserves it. So I came up with the concept, help me to help you. And this I came up with because let's say that you need an internship. And you say, Joppe, I need an internship. And then I'm like, I don't know what to answer. I don't have internships in my pockets, right? So I need you to help me. I need you to help me so that I can help you. And then we get back to descriptive communication. What kind of internship? Why do you care? Where? Right? And then if you answer all these questions, now I know, and then I can help you. But even more so, once you have described it, I am more likely to want to help you. Because you made it easy, and I know that you want to do the work. So with Help Me Help You, what I do is I get 50 people together. I've done it in the last one was in a bar, actually. It was a lot of fun. 50 people together, and I ask the audience, what is something that you want? Same thing. Somebody says, I would like to learn how to cook Thai food. I would like to learn how to write in French. I would like to start a company. I'm looking for a mentor. Could be whatever. And then I help them to formulate it in such a way that the people around them can understand it, so we can all help. And then I ask the audience, who here wants to help? And 9 out of 10 times, there's a direct solution in the audience on the thing. Solution doesn't mean the end goal, but it means that somebody has the referral, they have the tool, they have the niece that can babysit or whatever the hell it is. It is really happy and very, very beautiful. And you should see the energy in the room, the atmosphere at the end. Everybody's buzzing and everybody gets to know each other. And it also shows that we're human, right? And that we need this help. And then you also see that people want to help. They want to help, but they need to understand what you need help with. And the help cannot be, I need clients, I need money, I need a job. That doesn't work. That doesn't exist, right? That's the problem. What you need help with is how to get there. What are the steps? That's what Help Me Help You is about.
I ran into the same problems on LinkedIn all the time because people are there just banging their head on the wall. Yes. They don't know how to get ahead. Yes. They don't know what they're actually doing there. Yes. Are they there to learn to get ahead on a job search? And the job doesn't miraculously just materialize in front of you on LinkedIn. But what would be, besides coming to your event, what would be some practical advice that you could give people? For example, an international person living in Finland or a Finnish person who has not previously networked before and is just going to LinkedIn, trying to get that internship to get actually where they want.
There's actually 3 questions to answer. It's easy to ask the questions. It's very difficult to answer, but we'll get to that. So let's say you're looking for an opportunity, a career opportunity. You first ask the question, what do I want for the company where I want to work? What do I want for the company that I'm applying? What do I want for the company that I'm going to work using my skills and expertise? 2, what do I want for the end user or client of that company? And 3, what do I want for myself? So, in short, what do I want for the company using my expertise and skills? What do I want for the end user or client using my skills? What do I want for myself using my expertise and skills? When you answer this properly, which by the way is difficult, if you do this properly, you'll know what to put in your About section on LinkedIn. You'll know what to put in your CV. You'll know what to put in your cover letter. It's all right there. But the problem people have often is that, and now we're coming into the descriptive part of descriptive communication, is they don't describe what it is that they do and how they do it. So somebody might say, ask them, okay, what do you want? They say, I want a job in HR. I ask them, okay, why? What do you do? Where do you like it? And they always say the same thing. I'm good with people. Okay? I would ask them, what do you want for these people? That's the question, right? The end user, the employees. What do you want for the end user? And then they say, I don't know. I have no idea. What do you want? And then it starts to come. I would like for the employees to feel safe, like you said. And then I ask them, how does that look like? Right? So we describe it. And then the real difficult part comes. How do you solve that? What are the 2-3 steps you take? And then they say again, HRing. No, I don't know. You're the expert. You're supposed to know. Yeah, well, maybe I start with research. Okay, I can do research, but I could try your job and fail miserably, but you would succeed, right? So what is it in research that is difficult, right? So by answering these questions properly, then you get more close to an answer. By the way, anybody listening to the podcast, I used to be a career coach. I have a file, a document that people can ask for free. I'll give it to you. I've never finished it. It's called Joppe's Approach. It's not finished, but these questions are in there and many more tips. I can also send it to you if anybody asks, and then people can have it. I hope it helps. But as I said, answering these questions I'm saying it wrong. Reading the questions and trying to answering them is only half of it, because you have to also understand then how to answer it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
But it's actually a really hard question to answer. What were the biggest problems in your previous companies and how did you solve them? So I can't answer that. I was CEO for maybe 4 years and director of sales and marketing for maybe another 4 years. It's really hard to answer that question.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the fact that if I do it, if I'm good at it, I don't think about how I do it. The same way that I don't know how I walk. I can show you, but imagine that I try and explain to you, I put one leg in front of the other, that's not walking, right? But a person that helps with walking rehabilitation, they can probably tell you exactly how it is they do it, correct? So look at what you do and start taking it apart. So for instance, I've given this example before. One of my attributes is empathy. And then somebody asked me, how are you empathic? And I also went like, what? I don't know, it's automatic. But I started to think about it, and now eventually I was able to break it down. So now I can say, empathy means that if you come into the room, I look at how you walk, how you speak. Do you give me a firm handshake or a loose handshake? And from this I make an assumption, and then I test the assumption. So let's say that you're red in the face and you have clenched fists. I go, assumption, he must be angry. So I say, hey, are you angry? And you say, no, actually it's Finland, it's -27, it's very cold. And now I know. That's how I use empathy. Did I just explain how empathy works for me? Yes, right? There you go. That's kind of it.
Yeah. In my previous company, we actually noticed that it's really easier to explain the skill of an engineer.
Right, yes, of course.
If you're a salesperson, we didn't really know how to separate a salesperson from just a person. What is sales? And
but think about it. If you are willing to think about it, and you can explain to me how you sell, now you're an asset for sure. It becomes really hard to ignore you.
That's true. So we should just break it down until we can explain it to anybody.
So the simplest way would be ask yourself the question, and you don't have to answer it, but ask yourself the question over a longer period of time. Let it meander, and you'll start to see how it works. So that if you say HR and you say I'm good with people, very quickly you start to realize, okay, wait a minute, good with people. What do I do? Well, okay, for instance, when I go in, I always introduce myself to everyone. It's already better, right? Better than I'm good with people. I also always introduce myself to everyone. Oh, actually, you know what? I always have lunch with when I start to work somewhere in HR, I always have lunch with everyone first.
Yep.
And that's if you can say that in an interview, that's understandable from the people that are trying to hire you.
That's diamond advice.
Yeah, well, that's the descriptive part. We have to be descriptive in our communication.
Yeah.
I'm
easy to work with.
No, there you go. What does that mean? And by the way, I'm easy to work with. Well, it depends who you're working for. What's easy for you might be hell for me.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
There you go. So
yeah. We have Oddi's question. Do you follow or know good teachers who are excellent in leadership?
Well, yeah, there's luckily a lot. I really like Simon Sinek a lot. I really prefer him a lot because he has a very human and very empathic way of looking at things. Give me a second. Actually, maybe this sounds a bit weird. I would look into Esther Perel. Esther Perel is not a leadership coach or anything, but she's a psychologist, and she has this podcast called Where Do We Begin? And you get to listen in on people's sessions. I've not learned more about people and relations than from that podcast. That would actually be my best tip.
Is it like psychological counseling or?
Yes, so she does therapy sessions. They're like 3-hour sessions, and they boil it down to like 45 minutes. You get all the highlights. I find it really strong because you start to see, if you listen to enough, you start to see that the problems are always the same. And most problems have to do with people not listening and people not doing.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's why one of the reasons I also came to the question, what do you want? It's about understanding and doing. What do you want? I want this. Are you doing it? No. Right?
Yeah, I have listened to Jordan Peterson somewhat lot, and also Jung.
Jung was very good. Yeah.
And maybe I caught a glimpse of this stuff that people come to the psychologists with, and often it can be, for example, that they're not close enough to truth, or they're not active truth speakers.
While you were saying that, actually, what did come to mind is authenticity. I feel like anybody can be a good leadership trainer if they are authentic. Because I do believe that the best leaders, depends on the situation, but the best leaders are the ones that are authentic. They're authentic and they care. And I believe you cannot be authentic and not care. I think it goes hand in hand. And you see that there are plenty of people that they're inspiring, and they might be even leaders without knowing it. You see it in offices all the time. There are these people that don't have the management title, but they're leaders. People go for them for advice. They go to them to talk. They go to them to try and get something from their other managers.
So these are the people who flock others near them in the coffee breaks.
And they're not even trying.
Yeah.
But they're ready to do stuff, and they're ready to listen. And the people know this. It's very attractive, obviously.
So let's say that some of our listeners there are right now feeling a heavy feeling in their heart because they're realizing that they're not actually being authentic in their current job. Maybe it's the scary environment that they've had to take on some kind of role. Maybe there was a hugely successful person in the same position just before them, and they're comparing themselves and trying to live up to expectations. What would be some practical ways to just get to work with the authenticity? How should they start to approach this?
That's a very difficult question. Yeah. Okay, let me think for a second. A practical way forward with this. Okay, what comes to mind is this. I mean, preferably this person would, for instance, book a session with me or anybody else, right? And the reason I say that, the other person asked just about the leaders and who to read.
Yeah.
I think reading can be good, but since unself leadership happens in relationship to another, I think practicing with people is the best way to go for sure. Okay, that's one. Two, you have to understand that if you want change, you will have to ask, what do I want? And you will have to answer it. The answer cannot be, I want change, I want out, I want the other to change, right? What I mean by that is, once we understand better that authenticity, what do I want and how do I want it, only works if we combine it with responsibility. The person that can make this change, this is me. And I have to be respectful towards myself, towards the other, right? So in that way, what I look for myself is kind, polite, direct, and honest authenticity. Polite, kind, direct, and honest authenticity. This becomes the tool forward. But you have to be prepared that the people around you, they're not going to like it. Because once you know what you want, that means change. And a lot of us are not ready for that. Our parents, our teachers, our colleagues, our CEO. If you all of a sudden decide to be more you and ask for what you want fairly, right? There's not a lot of people that can work with that. Why do I say that? I say that because if you want change, you have to understand that that means to take the responsibility that it's going to be hard. There is no easy way here. It does not exist. I wish I had it. If I had it, I would give it to you. But it's not. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So, the practical step forward is to allow yourself to ask the question, how do I want this? So that means that it's less important to answer it. It's more important to allow yourself to ask that question. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But we naturally sort of end up in situations where we are in some respect in the opposite situation than where we want to be.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the shadow, what Jung would say. Say that we have the shadow that we actually want to be alone, or maybe want to be in front of people performing stuff and being some dancer dude or something, but we are actually just doing some code in the back room.
I hope that people can see that eventually all of it is an arrow, right? And with that I mean is that if I can describe exactly what it is that I want, it's an arrow, right? It points to me where to go, which makes decision making easier. But if I'm somewhere where I don't want to be, it's also an arrow. But in this case, the arrow points away from something, correct? Yeah. And why I like that is that I used to work in psychiatry, and I had jobs. I hated every single job. I hated it. And I wouldn't change the field. I thought the field was going to change for me. Only now do I understand that life was showing me an arrow away from psychiatry. Back then I was full of resentment because I thought that the change would be made for me. But so it's an arrow, and that makes it easier. But anybody who's gone through a lot of change knows that it's super hard. It takes a lot of time. You have to have grit, you have to also try it, make as many smart decisions. Anybody who says it's easy is out of their mind. Anybody who says it's easy is lying and being rude. We should tell each other, you should follow your goal, you should follow your wish, but this is hard. We have to be honest, right?
Let's talk about your book, Reaching Escape Velocity. How does that topic tie up to all of this?
It's actually very related. So my book is an attempt to show people how you can maybe create some change. Now, that might make you think that there's tips and tricks on how to make the change. That's not at all the case. This book, for me, is my own arrow, the way that I made change for myself. The fact that I could make this book, and I did by myself and published by myself, is my arrow pointing, is me following what do I want and how do I want it, right? The book is to help people understand that if we transform the language that we use and how we use it, that we can actually move forward. Does that make any sense? So, reaching escape velocity, do you know what escape velocity is?
Are we talking about like rockets and space?
Yes. So, escape velocity is the speed you need a rocket to go in order to leave the atmosphere and go into space. The story I just told about being stuck in psychiatry, working the same job over and over again, was me not reaching escape velocity. Only when I started asking the question, what do I want? And we're taking responsibility, I was able to get out of orbit. And for me, definitely the key was to take responsibility, because I kept blaming everything and everyone over and over and over again. But one tool that I found is poetry. One tool that I found is metaphors. And I really like the idea that if I change the language that I use, if I become again descriptive in my communication and we add poetry, then you will see that maybe even a little bit of magic is possible. And I really like that idea a lot.
I think about poetry almost like having a dream and solving a problem in a dream that you wouldn't otherwise be able to solve. Like deeply connecting to your active imagination, changing the rules.
Actually, there's a poem about community. Is it okay if I read it quickly?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just realized it. Give me a second. 88. By the way, the book is officially coming out Saturday. I'm very excited. I'm having a book reveal party in Helsinki. And if you are in Helsinki, you're very much invited.
Thank you. Meanwhile, I'll just share a little personal story.
Can find it.
That for me, having worked 10 years in a family company, I've had a sort of a self-limiting belief that how big of a role or place this company should have in my heart and in my maybe personality. So right now I'm maybe still in the process of giving up parts of it and maybe trying something completely new in my life, and I'm just starting to be able to form some kind of picture in my mind that what everything I can do because of this self-limiting belief I had that I need to stick to this thing that I did.
I have to say though, I find that, and this is also really important, I think, for companies as much as for individuals, that if you want to make a real change, it takes everybody. We need each other also, really. Nowadays, I feel we understand pretty well to support each other emotionally, meaning if you say, I really want to travel to whatever, and then I say, yeah, you should. That we know how to do. But what we forget is how to actually help each other. Because I think a lot of us feel alone in our attempt to create something. I found it, by the way. May I? I sometimes feel alone. Alone in my pain and alone in pursuit of something better, something more. Sometimes I feel a part of something bigger, but mostly I feel away. And even amongst friends and family, it is possible to feel alone. A long time ago, we lived in huts with walls made of dirt. We knew a village of 100 souls. You knew each other and every one of those souls since you shared what was hunted and gathered for each other. You had to share with your neighbor, for otherwise you would probably die in early death. Imagine how close you lived in mind, body, and spirit. Thin walls made out of skin or branches covered in dirt. All tools were shared because making a sharp rock was borderline impossible. You needed to huddle together for warmth when cold, get water to help each other cool from the river when hot. Now we are separated by thick walls of concrete, maybe living in pairs of 4, small separated units, separated from family and friends by distances impossible to walk. We don't share our food and don't warm each other anymore when we are cold. We might give a nod to our neighbor, but we don't know their name. We can be separate from help, trying to make it work by ourselves. We have been brought up with the idea that we should do it alone. We raise our kids by ourselves, and so do we do with funds. Parents get dark rings around their eyes since there are no empty pairs of hands to hold the child when mother is tired. Many of us are alone, live alone, and have forgotten how to make friends, hold conversations, and how to ask for help. Under the guise of your independence, you silently and ashamedly wish to be held when we are down. Society and culture has ingrained this idea in our heads that we are responsible for ourselves in absolutes, a dogma given to us when all we want is to have our hand caressed when we can no longer breathe. We crave for our hearts to be held when we have no more strength. We find ourselves celebrating in silence that we have achieved our independence, and I cannot take it any longer. For when I close my eyes and take a deep breath, I can feel a community-shaped hole in my heart. I want to break down these concrete walls and close the distance between our hearts.
My time for goosebumps.
Yeah.
I think those are perfect closing words. Thanks a lot, Joppe. I'd love to do this again with you, and everybody who is listening is invited to your book reveal party.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, so the book reveal is in Helsinki, 3 to 5 at Bar Mascot. You can just walk in.
Perfect. Everybody, let's walk in. Thank you, Joppe.
Thank you so much.